Let us start from chapter 23, the first verse, up until we read to about 21, and then we conclude at there. Ezekiel 23. The two adulterous sisters. The two adulterous sisters. The word of the Lord came to me. Son of man, there were two women, daughters of the same mother. They became prostitutes in Egypt, engaging in prostitution from their youth. In that land their breasts were fondled and their virgin bosoms caressed. The older was named Aholah, and her sister was Aholibah. They were mine and gave birth to sons and daughters. Aholah is Samaria, and Aholibah is Jerusalem. So it states clearly in verse 1 that this is a parable. We're not going to negate that it's not a parable. The question is, why such a sexual, explicit, illicit parable needs to be used? And according to this Bible, this is God talking. This is God talking. So CL, let's answer this question for us, please, and explain why is God using, according to your Bible, using such despicable sexual content. It goes on. Aholah engaged in prostitution while she was still mine, and she lusted after her lovers, the Assyrians, warriors, clothed in blue, governors and commanders, all of them handsome young men and mounted horsemen. She gave herself as a prostitute to all the elite of the Assyrians and defiled herself with all the idols of everyone she lusted after. She did not give up the prostitution she began in Egypt, when during her youth men slept with her, caressed her virgin bosom, and poured out their lust on her. Wow. Caressed her virgin bosom and poured out their lust on her. What does that mean? Goodness. Therefore I delivered her into the hands of her lovers, the Assyrians, for whom she lusted. They stripped her naked, took away her sons and daughters, and killed her with the sword. She became a byword among women, and the punishment was inflicted on her. Her sister Aholibah saw this, yet in her lust and prostitution she was more depraved than her sister. She too lusted after the Assyrians, governors and commanders, warriors in full dress, mounted horsemen, all handsome young men. I saw that she too defiled herself. Both of them went the same way. But she carried her prostitution still further. She saw men portrayed on a wall, figures of Chaldeans portrayed in red with belts around their waists and flowing turbans on their heads. All of them looked like Babylonian chariot officers, natives of Chaldea. As soon as she saw them, she lusted after them and sent messengers to them in Chaldea. Then the Babylonians came to her, to the bed of love, and in their lust they defiled her. After she had been defiled by them, she turned away from them in disgust. When she carried on her prostitution openly and exposed her naked body, I turned away from her in disgust, just as I turned away from her sister. Yet she became more and more promiscuous, as she recalled the days of her youth when she was a prostitute in Egypt. Listen here. Wow. There she lusted after her lovers, whose genitals were like those of donkeys, and whose emissions was that of horses. This is the Bible. There she lusted after her lovers, whose genitals were like those of donkeys, and whose emissions was like that of horses. So you long for the lewdness of your youth, when in Egypt your bosom was caressed, and your young breast fondled. This is the Bible. This is what it says. And yes, this is a parable, and it don't really mean that. Is there not a better way to explain this parable other than such illicit, explicit sexual nature? So C.L. Edwards, David Wood, Sam Shimon, Christian Prince, who these guys are notorious, for their foul and despicable nature. Why don't you come before the people and explain why in your holy book is God talking in such a despicable manner? Would any of you read this to your daughters? Any of you read this as a nighttime story, a bedtime story to your daughters? I dare you. I dare you to come back and make a video and read it. Nevertheless, read to your daughters. I challenge all of you to come back and read this sick content in your holy book. And you dare to open your mouth and say something about paradise, which is a reward for men who strove hard in the cause of God, that God gave them women to enjoy themselves in paradise, that God gave them food to enjoy in paradise, and God gave them fruit to enjoy paradise, and whatever they desire of goodness in paradise, God gave it to them. Yet, here in the earth, we have to be subject to such despicable content in the holy book. You have lost your brains. You have lost your brains.